Hi, what I'd like to do is give you a little overview of ChatGPT for those who haven't tried it yet, and for those who have tried it, just give you an idea to help you get started with developing a lesson if you haven't been using this for any lesson planning or any sort of content development for your students. The only thing I would say before we get started is that there are currently no AI tools approved for student use. We're still kind of waiting on that to happen. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But until that happens, ultimately, I'd like to, at least get people started with understanding the strength of the tools. And I'm going to get into ChatGPT here a little bit. But before I get into ChatGPT, I'm going to utilize a tool from CAST, key questions to consider. I'm going to have you consider using this document from CAST, which utilizes key questions to consider when planning lessons. And they have think about how learners will engage with the lesson, think about how it is presented to learners, and thinking about how learners are expected to act strategically and express themselves. So with a document like this with some guiding questions, if you're thinking about doing some lesson plan development, you could also use the questions that kind of are already naturally on the UDL lesson plan. But I thought it would be good to share this document and kind of see, and you can use this as a starting point. So for example, think about how learners will engage with the lesson. Does the lesson provide options that can help all learners regulate their learning, sustain effort and motivation, engage and interest all learners? I'm going to go over to ChatGPT and, just by referencing this first one, I would say how learners will engage with the lesson in all learners. So for example, I'll use sixth grade science as an example. And I'm in ChatGPT here. You do have to have a login with a Google account, and I do actually pay for the 4 version, which has browsing analysis and a limit of 40 messages for every 3 hours. Great for everyday tasks. They've upgraded the 3 to a 3.5 for the free. So if you do log in with a free account, you'll have the ChatGPT 3.5. And so I'm just going to go here into message, and I'm going to ask how or what should I consider when developing an engaging lesson, and I'm going to be very broad here, for a 6th grade science unit. And what ChatGPT will do is it will generate, a response that gives you kind of a broad-based. Now, the thing to remember is that as you continue to prompt ChatGPT, it will continue to kind of reassess what it's given you. So for example, they've told me learning objectives, relevance, hands-on activities, visual aids, inquiry-based learning, group work, technology integration, storytelling, differentiated instruction, assessment, clear instructions, engaging openers and closers, reflect and iterate. So what you want to do here is, think about the response you got, and now you want to define it a little bit further. So now that you're in here and you have this response around engaging, topics that are engaging for a 6th grade science unit, this gives you kind of a general idea. So for example, if you were more interested in the inquiry-based learning piece here, you could use that, as a focus. You could pick multiple focuses of what you want to embed into your lesson. And just a note within ChatGPT, if you use this little clipboard, you hit copy, that will copy all of the text in that thread. You can also give it a thumbs up if it liked the response. And you could also regenerate the response. I'm going to be okay with this response. And, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hop over to the standards for grade 6 and find a topic to kind of refine my response. So, potentially, analyze and interpret rock layers and index fossils to determine the relative ages of rocks and formations that result from processes over time. And it has a clarification statement of examples of models can be physical, graphical, or conceptual, and should emphasize relative positions and distances, with additional clarification statements. So let's say I'm building a lesson around this topic. Maybe I'll take this, analyze and interpret rock layers and fossils. I'll go back into ChatGPT and I will say, based on the concept of more engagement provided in the response, please provide me sample activities. Think more engagement. Sample activities and questions that I can use when developing a unit to address, or lesson, I'll say lesson, to address. And I'll just go ahead and I'll paste that standard in here. So now I'm pushing the ChatGPT a little bit to include a part of what it was part of my initial request based on thinking about the lesson. And now I'm asking it for activities and questions for a unit lesson on the specific standard. So now it's giving me activities such as a fossil dig, excavation, rock layer models, matching games, fossil record timeline, with virtual field trip, some guiding questions that I could consider. One thing I would go through here, if you wanted to take this a step further, is based on maybe one of these activities. Just to kind of brainstorm here, please provide a framework for a group project addressing this standard. And of course, you may want to use multiple standards for, and I'll say the rock layer models activity. And let's say I'm thinking about a long-term project. So here it's giving me a project exploring geological history through rock layer models. It gives me an objective, materials, project duration. And you could go through and ultimately ask ChatGPT to help define each component of this a little bit better and make it more uniquely your own, which I highly recommend with using any of the AI tools. But as you can see, you get a lot of information that you can kind of then choose to kind of adapt and modify for your students. This is built out a framework, but also included assessments. And you could ask, please provide multiple types of assessments that maybe address other standards. I definitely recommend utilizing other resources and kind of building together, bringing multiple components in when using a tool like this. Otherwise, some of the responses can become a little flat and not very personalized. But I just wanted to give an overview of how you could use it based on a prompt from, specifically even from when planning lessons with this CAST document, some of the guided questions they've given you here. So thanks again. And I hope this helps you kind of think, about how potentially you could use these tools to help invigorate lessons and also redesign lessons and ultimately add content much more quickly and also define it more to be your own as well. Thanks.